Good morning.
Good morning.
As we get ready for service, please turn your phones to worship mode. And we are continuing to hum as Cathy leads us through today's hymns. We're very grateful that you are all here with us. And the gathering song is, "Oh, I Woke Up This Morning."
Yes, if you'd like to stand, if you would like to embody your spirit, Mark and Haney are going to help me with the bass part, so it sounds more full. Because this song just doesn't sound right without them. Okay. Oh, I woke up this. How can I help you? Oh, sorry. You can help me, but I guess, sorry. Oh, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I was walking and talking with my mind stayed on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I was singing and praying with my mind stayed on freedom. Singing and praying with my mind stayed on freedom. Singing and praying with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Our opening words this morning are from the African, yes, okay. Thank you. Can you hear me now? Okay. Our opening words this morning are from the African-American champion tennis player, Arthur Ashe. He said these words to a group of nonprofit leaders years ago who were kind of bemoaning the fact that they didn't have enough money to do what they really wanted to do. So Arthur Ashe said to them, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can.
Our Chalice Lighting words this morning come from Cynthia Landrum, and they're entitled Connection and Commitment. As we kindle this flame, may it spark in each of us connection and commitment to this living tradition and to each other. Please stand as you are able and join me in saying our church's Affirmation of Covenant, followed by humming as Cathy sings the Doxology in English and in Spanish. The words appear on the slide in front of you. Love is the doctrine of this church, and the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with one vision. Thus do we covenant with one another.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, through every land, by every tongue. De todos bajo el gran sol, surja esperanza, fe y amor, verdad, belleza en la canción de cada tierra, cada voz.
Thank you, Cathy, and thank you, Mark and Haney, for the harmony on our opening hymn. Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces. My name is Cathy Fitzgerald, and I'm your service associate for today. We have no minister at this time, so John Seeley, a member of our Board of Trustees, will be our service leader this morning. John, Cathy, and I are delighted to be with you, and equally glad that you are all with us. Unitarian Universalism has no creed nor dogma. We are a covenant-based church, meaning that we agree to live in relationship with each other according to the Unitarian Universalist principles and our congregation's covenant of right relations. We embrace diversity in all its forms. Everyone is welcome. You can learn more about our church and check the events calendar at our website, UUCLC.org. As a safeguard against the spread of the coronavirus and its variants for some of our more vulnerable members and friends, we are continuing to offer hybrid services here in the sanctuary as well as online using Zoom software. If you are visiting us today, we'd like to meet you. Here in the sanctuary, please stand and wait a moment while we get the microphone to you. Please introduce yourself and let us know where you are from. Do we have any visitors today? If you're visiting with us on Zoom, please turn on your microphone and camera. Do we have any visitors, Michaela, on Zoom? What looks like we do. Jane?
Hi, UUs. I live here in Las Cruces, and I've been to the church, but I haven't been with you all since COVID. So I'm happy for the Zoom option, and good morning. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Great. It's
Sorry
wonderful.
about my hair.
It's great that you could join us. Do we have any others? Okay. All righty. So to let you all know, directly following this service, there will be an opportunity to fellowship with one another. For those on Zoom, just stay linked to the site after the service ends. For those in the sanctuary, we hope that you will continue to practice safe distancing as you gather under the portico between here and the RE building for treats, coffee, and conversation. This week's hospitality offerings are sponsored by the Richens Covenant Group. And the last time I checked the board, we don't have anybody signed up for next week. So please consider that. Now we have an announcement from Charlie Schultz.
Oh boy, do we ever. Okay. This is about one of my favorite topics, the auction. The auction is coming up on May 7th. That's a Saturday. We're calling it a day at the races because it's also Derby Day. And there's an interesting connection that we're going to make with that. Anyway, we're going to actually do the live auction on Zoom from 7 until 9. So if you can't, for some reason, make the live auction, if you can't, you could Zoom with us. And then what you do is put your bids in the chat box, and that will get to the auctioneer. That's me, the auctioneer. Okay. We're also offering this year, for the first time, chauffeurs for those people who don't drive at night. And I know there are some of you who don't drive at night. I don't blame you. Driving at night is dangerous. I've run into curbs and things. So I'm getting to that point, you know. Anyway, we're offering chauffeurs, chauffeur service. So you can be picked up and taken to the silent auction, and then you can stay for the live auction and the chauffeur will drive you home. Okay, good. And then we're having a contest for the best hat. Now, if you follow Derby Day at all, if you go and watch this on TV, or if you've been to the race in Kentucky, you realize that people dress up for this. And there's often fancy, fancy hats that people wear, men and women. So we're going to have a hat contest. We're encouraging people to wear and create wonderful headpieces, and then these will be judged and there'll be a prize for the best hat. All right? Yes, sir.
Are they going to be gender prizes, or are they going to be
Well, that'd be interesting because I've never thought of hats as gender specific, but I understand that women don't often wear baseball caps backwards, particularly. That seems to be a young male thing, or it was when I was growing up. Anyway, and for umpires as well. But I think that we'll probably award a best hat for gentlemen and a best hat for gentlewomen. How about that? But we haven't decided that yet. It might just be, the best hat, period, right? I mean, after all, aren't we equal? Well, we're supposed to be. Okay, fine. Now, one thing we do need, well, two things we do need. We do need your donations. And you can go online. There's a donation form on the website that you can fill out. And next Sunday and through April, there will be donation forms in the foyer or the lobby or the narthex, depending on what you call it. And that'll be available, and you can fill those out and drop those in. And because we need donations for the auction, otherwise we have nothing to auction, right? And finally, we need volunteers. And next Sunday, Rabbit Loring and Sarah Thomas will be outside after the service signing up volunteers. And they'll do that for the next couple of weeks. So we have volunteers to help with setup and tear down, serving drinks, all those kinds of things. Spotters for the auction. Good, okay. Reminder real quick, the auction is Saturday, May 7th. It's going to start at 5 o'clock. We're going to do the silent auction from 5 to 7, and that'll be outside, probably in the shade structure and around. And then the live auction will be here from 7 to 9. And we'll have entertainment and, of course, food and drinks. All right? Okay. And now a message from our board president. Board president?
All right, I think this is a kind of a happy announcement. I'll give you a little preface. You remember you think it would be better without these, huh? Okay. You never know what to do. Okay. The song we sang last week, Heaven Knows Where We Are Going. It sounds sort of discouraging, as if we were wandering in the wilderness, but I know that for some people in this congregation right now, it feels disturbingly like that. And questions certainly swirl. When will we search for a new minister? What's our plan? Can we afford a new minister? How can we meet the spiritual needs of our congregation during this time? Some members of this beloved community are distanced from us right now. What can we do to welcome them back? These are all great questions. And the good news, if you follow and continue that song, is, but we will get there. We know we will. All right? So what we have decided to do is, following the advice of Reverend Sarah Millsbaugh, who is our primary contact from UUA, we're going to hold listening circles, facilitated small group discussions that will, we hope, give us a chance to re-energize and reimagine ourselves, to listen deeply to one another, to give us the courage to do the hard work that will help us heal. A group of talented members have answered the call to become trained facilitators for this exercise, and they met with Sarah Millsbaugh on Thursday night. They are dynamic folks who are now meeting on today in the afternoon to practice and get ready to facilitate listening circles for all of us. So that will happen today, and then Sherry will get times and dates that we're going to suggest. Some of them will be in person, some of them will be on Zoom. So how we'll try to meet your preferences. And if the first set that we put up doesn't meet your preferences, then you need to tell us, hey, this doesn't work, but I really would like to do this on a Sunday afternoon, whatever. And we can make that happen because we want as many people as possible to participate. The board needs to make tough decisions, but we need to make them in concert with what it is that you see as our future and what it is you want. So we're going to start that work. And hopefully during the whole month of April, we'll have these circles and have a lot of information to share with you by the end of April. So please watch for that message from Sherry. Please sign up for a time. Your viewpoints are valuable to us, no matter where you stand, no matter what concerns you have. We want everybody to be involved. We need you. Thank you.
Yeah, local big mouth. Who's Sarah Millsbaugh?
Who is there?
I think you mentioned her a couple times. I just didn't know if people knew who Sarah Millsbaugh was.
Right. No. Was it really? Oh, there we go. Sarah Millsbaugh is a woman who works for UUA through the Pacific West District, and she's our primary contact. So she has been trying to help us. She came and talked with us and had a workshop. It was the first or second week of January. Yeah, and she's been very supportive and helpful, and we are appreciated her continued guidance and support. Good question, Mark. Does anyone else have a question? Can we get back to service? Great. Thank you, Dave.
Ish by Peter H. Reynolds. Ish. Ramon loved to draw. Anytime, anything, anywhere. One day, Ramon was drawing a vase of flowers. His brother, Leon, leaned over his shoulder. Leon burst out laughing. "What is that?" he asked. Ramon could not even answer. He just crumpled up the drawing and threw it across the room. Leon's laughter haunted Ramon. He kept trying to make his drawings look right, but they never did. After many months and many crumpled sheets of paper, Ramon put his pencil down. I'm done. Marisol, his sister, was watching him. What do you want? He snapped. I was watching you draw, she said. Ramon sneered. I'm not drawing. Go away. Marisol ran away, but not before picking up a crumpled sheet of paper. Hey, come back here with that. Ramon raced after Marisol, up the hall and into her room. He was about to yell, but fell silent when he saw his sister's walls. He stared at the crumpled gallery. This is one of my favorites, Marisol said, pointing. That was supposed to be a vase of flowers, Ramon said, but it doesn't look like one. Well, it looks vase-ish, she exclaimed. Vase-ish? Ramon looked closer. Then he studied all the drawings on Marisol's walls and began to see them in a whole new way. They do look ish, he said. Ramon felt light and energized. Thinking ishly allowed his ideas to flow freely. He began to draw what he felt, loose lines, quickly springing out, without worry. Ramon once again drew and drew the world around him. Making an ish drawing felt wonderful. He filled his journals, tree-ish, house-ish, boat-ish, afternoon-ish, fish-ish, sun-ish. Ramon realized he could draw his ish fillings too. Peace-ish, silly-ish, excited-ish. His ish art inspired ish writing. He wasn't sure if he was writing poems, but he knew they were poem-ish. Ponder, pond, ponder, dream, wander. Pond, pond, yond, yond, gleam, wander, Ramon. One spring morning, Ramon had a wonderful feeling. It was a feeling that even ish words and ish drawings could not capture. He decided not to capture it. Instead, he simply savored it. And Ramon lived ishfully ever after. The end-ish.
For the video coming up, I'm just going to do the percussion leading because it might be difficult to see what the guy is doing. So.
Okay, the whole community needs to get involved with this. We need singers and we need percussionists. You can be both, but at least choose one, will you? It goes like this. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Try with me. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Mama and Papa are fighting like snakes. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Baby is crying like her heart will break. Open the window. Neighbors lock their doors, build fences so high. Can't see what's to discover on the other side. Here we go, percussionists. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly. Open the window, let the dove fly. Borders round countries and borders round the sky. The only borders that close you are the borders round your mind. Some people have more, some people have none. But what's the use of money if your heart's gone numb? Let's do it again. Here we go. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. This big old world is in a great mess. Open the window, find peace and rest. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Last time. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in.
One of the ways we support one another in community is through sharing joys, sorrows, and milestones. Engaging with one another through the highs and lows of our existence is a hallmark of beloved community. Now that we have a traveling microphone, we have returned to the practice of going throughout the sanctuary and letting folks share personally their joys, sorrows, or milestones. On Zoom, if you have a joy, sorrow, milestone to share, please note that in the chat so that you could be recognized. And I'd like all to remember that this is not a time for announcements. In the sanctuary, if you have a joy, a sorrow, or a milestone to share, please stand or raise your hand and wait till we get the microphone to you.
I was pretty disturbed last night to hear that a friend had been attacked by a couple of dogs and lost her arm in the attack and was medevaced to El Paso. She's in recovery now in the hospital up here, and apparently she's doing well. Penny Dunkley. Yeah.
She's a friend to many here in the congregation. Thank you, Mark. Chris?
Many of you know that John died this last week. He had cancer that had metastasized to his liver, and he just couldn't make it anymore. He was never getting better. He's been hospitalized since December 11th. And we went with hospice, and we tried to do it at home, and he made it through half the night. So I sent him back to La Posada, and he died the next day. He was just tired, I think, of living. But he's in a good place. And I am too. Thank you.
We're glad his suffering is over. And our hearts go out to you and your children. Anyone else? John.
I just want to acknowledge the importance of the words spoken by the lady here. I am 100% disabled. I live alone. I do have a dog. Every day I have to work with that dog to make him to be an appropriate pet. But in my neighborhood, we see dogs that run loose. It would be incumbent upon our church to make some statement that people remove. They were ripping some of their pups with dogs cared for. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? Well, Bill and I have a joy this week. Our 17-year-old grandson decided to share his week off from school, spring vacation with us. So that's where Bill is out playing with Draven. Do we have any joys, sorrows, or milestones from Zoom? For these and for all the joys and sorrows we carry and cannot express, we light a candle. And offer this prayer. May we be reminded that all things come and go, that today's joys and today's sorrows will in time give way to those of tomorrow, and that those of us who have strength to share today ought to do so while we can, and that those who are in need ought allow ourselves to receive, for tomorrow those roles might well be reversed. Spirit of life, Mother and Father of us all, help us to remember that those who are not here with us today, those who need what we have found here, and those who have what we here need, may we always be open to growth and change, to movement, to grace, in the name of all that is holy, in all the holy names that have ever been uttered, and those that have yet not even been imagined. Let us say, blessed be, shalom, and amen. Okay, today is something a little bit different. We have a responsive reading, and you will have what you need to say in your order of service. The title is What You Will Say in Response to What I Say. And this responsive reading comes to us from Ma Teresa Tet Gusio Guerrero, and she is a member of the UU congregation of Quezon City in the Philippines. So you will say, when I change, the world changes. We are here to derive meaning in our action. When I change, the world changes. We are here to win our power back over our areas of powerlessness. We are here to deepen our understanding of ourselves in order to strengthen self-discipline. We are here to abolish prejudice with an appreciation for our diversity and differences. We are here to feel our personal power and our capacity to affect the lives of other people. We are here to become teachers to each other. We are here to spend time away from the usual influences and relearn reality. When God gives me the desire, I am also given the power and means to achieve my goals. I am here to see that my singular life is a gateway to countless possibilities.
Even dreams fall apart in the wind and the rain. Wild waves of storm rush in, and nothing is ever the same. When your whole life's been washed away, and it's hard to see the light, you just call on a friend with a hand to lend, and together you'll be alright. 'Cause we're all in this together, in the good times and the pain. We can't wait till the storm is over. We gotta learn to work in the rain. can't wait till the storm is over. We gotta learn to work in the rain. In every life, the rain will fall. That's just the way it must be. Yes, the waters will rise, but if hope stays alive, even the storms can set us free. So it's up to you and me, 'cause we're all in this together, in the good times and the bad. We can't wait till the storm is over. We gotta learn to work in the rain, 'cause we're all in this together, in the good times and the bad. We can't wait till the storm is over. We gotta learn to work in the rain. We gotta learn to work in the rain. We gotta learn to work in the rain. Work in the rain.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Hi. Katie at one point very kindly labeled my remarks this morning a deep reflection. And after Kelly's selection for A Time for All Ages, I would call it a deep reflection-ish. But what I was actually reflecting about was a topic that is dear to my heart: the danger of taking things for granted, the danger of taking things for granted, and the power of engagement. The danger of taking things for granted is that when we blink, metaphorically, that is, things may not be there as they were before. They become unrecognizable. Taking them for granted means, to me, assuming that they will be there tomorrow pretty much as they were today. We live each day successfully by taking many things for granted. Like gravity, for example. You put one foot down and it stays down. We're not on the moon bouncing around, remember? Although I did learn from my professors when I actually, professors at Google University, that is, that gravity is really not the same around the whole globe because the globe is different. So I had assumed that if you put your foot down, it would stay down. And apparently that's really the case because there aren't too many differences. But when I really began to think about this, the danger of taking things for granted and the power of engagement, the three things that came to my mind pretty quickly were our climate, our democracy, and our church. Let me repeat those because they're very dear to me. Our climate, our democracy, and our church. I'm sure that with a touch of reflection, each of you could come up with your primary three for granted, like relationships or family, for example. So before developing each one of those 3 points a bit, I have a quick true story for you. I was in the doctor's office earlier this month, earlier in March. And the young lady who was prepping me, it was a podiatrist, a foot doctor. She said, "How are you today?" And I said, "I'm fine, but it's only 9 o'clock. We really haven't had too much time." You know, I had found out, like I'm sure many of you, the earlier you make your appointment, the less backup there is. So I said, "Well, I'm just fine, but it is early." So, and she said, and I said, "How are you?" And she said, "Fine now. But earlier this month, we had to close the office because we had all tested positive for COVID." So I said, "What's going on?" And that's what she said. She said, "We'd all tested positive for COVID. So we had to close the whole office." And so I said, "Well, what's up?" And she said, "Well, it was a pretty mild case for most of us." And of course, she hesitated after most of us. So I knew that something else was going on. So I said, and you? And she said, well, I was super tired and I lost my sense of smell. There was a pause, a long pause, and a hum. And then she said, you know, it's really amazing what we take for granted. I was amazed at how much I actually smelled, and I really, really missed it. So after listening to Reverend Millspa's sermon, wonderfully metaphoric sermon on the 23rd of January, maybe some of you remember it, but I reflected on her winter compost story. Maybe some of you might remember it. She made the same point that I will try to make today with Michaela's help. Michaela helped me a lot putting some, peppering the remarks with slides. So she made the point that involvement is powerful. You can't just take your compost for granted. It won't just become the rich, dark compost you had hoped for unless you tend to it. You have to tend to it by turning it over now and then and really paying attention to it. So you have to really engage with it. It won't just come back like the lady's sense of smell. You need to really engage with it. Now let's take my three for granted one by one. Climate change is the first one. As UUs, we embrace our seventh principle. We respect the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Climate change, accelerated by global warming, came first to me because I think it is actually existential. It is the umbrella for all of our lives, our kids' lives, our grandkids' lives, and it will ricochet globally in perpetuity. Here it is. And Michaela, yes, there it is, right there. Climate scientists have been alerting us to the fact that the globe was warming at an alarming rate for decades. The knowledge that global warming is caused by, or at least accelerated by humans, is widely accepted. I believe all of us are keenly aware of the greenhouse gases, which our behavior, our personal behavior, leaves a personal, community, and national, even a global footprint. I recognize that I'm talking to the choir. You all know that. I've read several books and seen several movies on the subject. Remember An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore? And there was another author, Bill McKibben. They both founded citizens organizations that are an attempt to educate people and be active politically. In fact, one book really caught my attention. It was by Elizabeth Colbert, who wrote The Sixth Extinction. Anybody remember that one? Yes. So a critique written about that book in 2014 reads, in lucid prose, she examines the role of man-made climate change in causing what biologists call the sixth mass extinction, the current spasm of plant and animal loss that threatens to eliminate 20 to 50% of all living species on Earth within this century. I mean, that's big time. Let me read that again. In lucid prose, she examines the role of man-made, and that includes women too, man-made climate change in causing what biologists call the sixth mass extinction, the current spasm of plant and animal loss that threatens to eliminate 20 to 50% of all living species on Earth within this century. Excuse me. In fact, a woman by the name of Laura Paskus wrote at the precipice, it makes clear that the stakes of climate change are in New Mexico. This brings it close to home. Our speaker at last Sunday's roundtable on climate change is a member of Citizens Climate Lobby, a nonpartisan political action group, which most every year lobbies in Congress for change. When I lived in Ann Arbor a few years back, I was an active member of CCL, which is a nonpartisan political action organization. I went to Washington twice to lobby Congress people for what's called carbon fee and dividend, which is an approach to public policy. As our speaker last Sunday showed, putting a price on carbon helps reduce global warming, but it's not enough. We need to do more. So in a recent commentary on this issue, a University of Michigan climate scientist said we have three options. What are they? Three options. We can mitigate the problem, we can adapt, and we can suffer. And when you think about it, that's what's going on globally. We're trying to mitigate it, like the Glasgow and Paris Accords before that. You know, I have driven many times from Hatch to Deming. You remember, you know, that trip kind of? Well, you see all kinds of wind turbines and solar panels, which are, I think, our attempt to adapt to climate change. Both my kids have electric cars, same thing. So now with Michaela's help, I'm going to show you what gives me hope. Greta Thunberg, there she is. She's kind of a symbol for youth's involvement in trying to mitigate climate change. But our kids are too. There they are. Yeah. So these are examples of engagement which give me hope. Now I'd like to turn to the next topic. It's our democracy. For me, our democracy is my next for granted. I have always taken it for granted, and I probably still do. I never had to fight for it like my dad did in World War II, or like the Ukrainians are doing now. My first inkling in a significant way that something was awry was the Oklahoma City bombing. Remember that? Yes, well, it was perpetrated by Timothy McVeigh. And that event really caught my attention because I suspected something deeper was awry. So when I dug into this a bit and talked to many people, I was amazed that a veteran like Timothy McVeigh could do something so terrible to America and Americans. Terry Nichols, his accomplice, was from Lapeer, Michigan, my home state, my former home state, where people, believe it or not, are now on trial for trying to kidnap the governor. I mean, can you believe it? Kidnap our governor. So that really caught my eye too. Now, as UUs, you know, our fifth principle says, which is something close to our hearts, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations like this one and society at large. Like many of you, January 6th of a year ago, last year, caught my attention. Rioters from all across the whole country, mind you, and instigated by our president, stormed the Capitol. It became a TV event, but I couldn't help but think that behind the pictures, capturing just moments in time, something big time was actually going on. So I began to think, to probe, and to reflect. A video of a Commonwealth Club program in September 1st, 2020 caught my eye. There it is. It was a review by Suzanne Mettler and Robert Lieberman. They were two government professors. They were interviewed on the program about their book, 4 Threats to Democracy. You know, it's really hard to recognize these 4 threats or trends when you're actually a part of them, like we are. You know, it's hard to see the forest from the trees. So these two people tried to give us the forest. The 4 threats are political polarization, conflict over who belongs in the political community, high and growing economic inequality, and excessive executive power. Now, if you can just look at this pretty closely, This book exposes the historical antecedents for these 4 issues and develops them quite thoroughly. If you look carefully at that graphic, the left axis identifies 6 historical periods. See them? Okay. Now, and across the top are the 4 threats. And the X's on the graph mark when these threats were active. Please note that the political polarization we feel so intensely today, take the Supreme Court nomination for an example. I mean, there is so much political activity on that, so much polarization, it just is intense. So this one is not new, but executive aggrandizement, if you look on the chart closely, is relatively new. As these authors write, even one threat alone, political polarization, wreaked havoc during the tumultuous 1790s as political leaders grew fiercely divided over competing visions of our nation's future, and Americans chose sides as Federalists or as Republicans. Now, this paragraph really caught my attention, especially for our congregation. Democracy works well when citizens' affiliations intersect in different ways, as when we associate with people of different political views in places of worship, our neighborhoods, workplaces, and civic organizations. But when these groupings overlap and reflect similar political views, as has been occurring in the United States in recent decades, politics becomes a battle of us versus them, of the republic or a return to monarchy. I really pondered this one. High and rising economic inequality proves dangerous because the rich fear that if the poor and middle classes gain power, they will face higher taxes, so they are willing to sacrifice democracy if that protects their material interests. Economic inequality has been soaring in our country since the 1970s, making the United States truly among the most unequal of nations, with the affluent even more politically organized. So given these threats, the powers and the foundations of democracy identified in the book, I ask myself, what are some of the engagement strategies? I continually ask myself this question because this particular issue is very much on my mind. When I asked myself this question, I could only come up with some pretty traditional things, but I mentioned them here. And I'm quite sure, Dave, if we had a roundtable on the topic, we would come up with many, many more. But the ones that came to my mind were support party equality in redrawing voting districts, help people register to vote, volunteer for county, city political opportunities, stay on top of political matters by attending political gatherings and reviewing League of Women Voters materials. Excuse me. Now I'd like to turn to my 4th for granted, which is literally close to home, because my 4th for granted is the church. I took our church for granted because even though the trends were there, I thought that the pledge drive would produce enough money to keep Kalani right where he was. Then when things began going south and we decided to negotiate a halftime plan, I, like many others, at least those on the board, were delighted that XK was okay with going to halftime and the rest of the staff would continue as usual. My thought was that that combination would keep our church whole, so to speak, but with some relatively modest changes, of course, because you have to change if your minister's only half-time. I just took things for granted. I never anticipated that Kalani would resign pretty much at the last minute and that we would be without our spiritual leader. I, like many of you, had the rude awakening. I was shocked, and reality is still slowly settling in. And as a board member, and once again more active on the Sunday Services Committee, I realized that it was congregants like you and like me that have to step up. And I mean, really step up. We're not just talking a baby step, we're talking a big step. And there are many things that I am excited about. Several very healthy things, from my point of view at least, are in the works. As Sarah Hitchka mentioned, Sarah Millspa is helping us in initiating listening circles to acknowledge the feelings surrounding XK's resignation and to focus our visions and energy on our future. I encourage you to participate, to be engaged. The Board of Trustees, I want you to know, is actively meeting 2 times a month, not just 1 time a month, as our normal habit is. And there are other examples of people stepping up. Lynn Pearson is a good example. She stepped up to be our webmaster. And Katie and Charlie are active members of the Sunday Services Committee. In fact, I learned from Susan that, do you remember when we had the service on covenant groups? Well, after that service, 13 people stepped forward and expressed interest. That's a healthy sign to me, because the covenant circles are one way of building community. And although she's not here today, Catherine Massey and the choir are in place and active. Even today over Zoom, my heart pounds a little bit when a new interested member introduces themselves. I mean, that warms me up. It really does. And sometimes there are 3 or 4 people right here in the congregation who do the same thing. So while some of these are our pluses, there are some huge gaps. Last time I counted, there were 3 board committees and 14 or so active committees or ministries. Check them out. Michaela, yes, there they are. Sarah and Lori created that tree. It's in the library if any of you want to see it. And that's what it looks like. And from my perspective, 2 key groups which need leadership and membership are hospitality and membership. Hospitality is what we do each Sunday after our service, like we will do today. We socialize and build community. It doesn't just happen, though. It requires effort and organization. Ed Gomolka and Shirley Davis, who may be here today, have been active in that committee for a long time, but they're pooped. They're just worn out. So they need help. They need help. And so we need to step up and help them out. And membership. I remember talking with Jan Thompson not too long ago, and she said, well, John, it's just the 3 R's. The 3 R's? Yes. Recruitment, retention, and recognition. Jan dug out the mission of what was the Committee on Membership, stating it is to welcome visitors, orient newcomers towards membership, integrate new members into the life of the church, and help continuing members retain an enthusiastic, energetic approach to the church. A couple of years back, pre-pandemic, that is, I remember being invited to the Elderberries luncheon. This is for people over 75. I just made it. And so, as a relatively new member, that really felt wonderful. I felt connected. I felt energized. And so about the 2 ministries that need help right now, hospitality and membership. And Susan Hitchka reminded me that we need greeters too. And those are pretty straightforward jobs. So in conclusion, I just want to say that the danger of taking things for granted is that when you blink, metaphorically, they won't be there or they won't be recognizable. And the power of engagement by being involved solves problems, keeps the things pretty much like they were, only blessed with new ideas and new energy. Whether it's our climate, our democracy, our church, or your top three, whatever they might be, I wholeheartedly encourage you to become involved. Thank you.
John's a tough act to follow, but I gotta. I'd like to share these words from Erica Hewitt, and it's called What We Say Yes To. The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place and to this people. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation as tools to empower our mission. Please refer to the electronic order of service or to the member section of the church website to see how you can continue making your pledges online if that is your preference. And I'm grateful as your finance chair for all of you who have maintained your pledging over the pandemic and into the first quarter of 2022. Thank you very much. The church continues its support of organizations identified by the Social Justice Committee as recipients of our Change for Change program. We collect your actual change and checks that have Change for Change noted in the memo line, as well as online donations for this purpose. So please be generous as the basket is passed and continue your Change for Change donations. This quarter's recipients of Change for Change dollars is La Casa, and today is the last time that you can donate to this shelter dedicated to serving the needs of victims of domestic abuse. This is the end of the quarter. This afternoon, as you know, you've got the handout. We will have a meeting at 2 p.m. over Zoom, and the Social Justice Committee is hosting this presentation of the 5 candidates and a vote for 4 worthy causes the UUCLC will support during the next 12 months. I encourage you all to attend that important meeting. The greeters will now pass the baskets.
In recent days, it's been inspiring to watch as millions of people have taken to the streets to demonstrate their belief that Black lives matter. As we all know, change is slow, but the history of our country has shown that change happens when individual people stand up, speak out, and demand it.
I remember stories that my grandpa used to tell about the olden days when very few were living well, when times were hard and most folks lived with trouble and despair. And meanwhile those in power never saw or seemed to care. Now history does repeat itself and some things never change. So when I start to lose all hope, I think of what my grandma used to say. Sometimes you gotta make a way. Sometimes you gotta take a stand. Sometimes you simply gotta get right up. Speak your mind, tell the truth. Oh yes, no more thoughts of giving up. No more thoughts of giving in. No more waiting, oh so patiently, quietly. cautiously. Oh no, now it's time to take a chance. Now it's time to face your fear. Now it's time to use your voice. Now you haven't any choice. Oh no, it's not a time for asking why, and it's not a time for me or my, and it's not a time for standing by. It's a time for rising up. Sometimes you gotta make a way. Sometimes you gotta take a stand. Sometimes you simply gotta stir things up, call them out, scream and shout. Oh yes, now it's time to spread your wings. Now it's time to state your case. Now it's time to speak up fearlessly, forcefully, urgently. Oh yes. Sometimes you gotta make a way. Sometimes you gotta take a stand. Sometimes you simply gotta get right up, speak your mind, tell the truth. Sometimes you gotta make a way. 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 Sometimes you gotta make a way.
If you are joining this worship service either in person or online, are looking for a spiritual home, and are sympathetic with Unitarian Universalist values and principles, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces may be the place for you. We believe that when you become a member, you are entering into a warm and deep relationship with the church and all of our members and friends. You are becoming a part of something much bigger than any of us. You are becoming a part of a movement to change our community and our world. The way you join this church is to sign either the real or virtual membership book through the link in the electronic order of service. You can see me after church, or you can call the church, leave a message, and someone will contact you. And now our closing hymn, Wake Now My Senses.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason and reach to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
Our closing words this morning are by Helen Keller. She said, "Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much."
Please join me in these words as we extinguish the flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of the community, or the fire. These we carry in our hearts until we are together.
There is always a light when we are ready to see it. There is always a light when we are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night, to climb this hill, together we will. There is always a light in the dark. We are ready to see it. There is always a light in the dark. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always a light. There is always a light. We are ready to see it. There is always a light. There is always a light. We are ready to be it. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a gift. Together we will. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. There is always light. To see the light, to be the light, to raise our eyes in the dark of night and be a climb this hill. Together we